Recorders and archivists! This is internet personality Vangelus, and the first wave of Titan's Return Legends featured a mix of data slabs and tiny vehicles, and Rewind happily represents it all in his own special way. He's also the first IDW referential Rewind Transformers toy, joining Lost Light pals Swerve and Tailgate in the Legends class side of comics-oriented Headsculpts. Like Laserbeak and Buzzsaw, Rewind's most boring alt mode is his Spy tablet form, which can be ejected out of Blaster or Soundwave. It's a thick plank of Rewind-colored plastic meant to look like a touchscreen device that happens to have G1 Rewind's cassette mode as a wallpaper, and that's accomplished using factory-applied stickers, which means, well, it's not your fault if they're kinda janky looking and corner peely. There's also an insignia up top, a series of faux buttons on the bottom, a fairly obvious Rewind chest on the back. There's also a stylus, kinda. The weapon accessory totally looks like and kinda stores like a PDA stylus for some of that early aughts gadget nostalgia. Ah, my good old Zyre 71. So plastic, so colorful, so blue. Oh, I almost forgot, there's also a headphone jack on the tablet mode. It fits your standard mini headphone plug, but there's no friction, so all you can really do is, I don't know, spin it around on the connector. Going from here to Rewind's other alt mode is pretty easy and a fun example of simple yet effective geometric mass displacement, by which I mean you're only manipulating the robot arms and suddenly your slab-shaped object is a simple tank-shaped object. The cannon does have to parts form, and it's worth mentioning that the gray parts hinges are scary tight on a stock Rewind. I followed a modding guide on mine, and here's what I did. The part where you fold this elbow is unpleasant. I don't like it. So people figured out a mod to prevent that thing from perhaps eventually cracking. I can't remember if it actually has, but feels risky, doesn't it? Over here, you're going to notice that this one goes much smoother and can even be done like that, rather than having to fold the whole thing over in one cacophonous swoop. So the way you do this is once you get it folded over once, and you can do this right out of the package since he's in robot mode, you push this like that, and then you can trim these edges. So you can use like a knife to whittle them down, you can use a file to sand them down. Basically, you want to get these corners, particularly these two that are around the hinge, just down so that they're a bit more like this, a little bit more rounded off and stubby, and then it'll fold much easier. You might want to test it a few times, just be careful, you know, don't cut the knife into your own flesh, and that's how you can make his hinge a lot less terrifying. Anyway, tank time! Rewind turning into a tank is kind of hilarious, and Rewind turning into a tiny tank is downright adorable. What really sells this is its commitment to the simple 8-bit video gamey silhouette. The turret uses all the gray plastic, doing some good color layout stuff, while the mechanical sides of the treads are highlighted in silver paint. There are also 3 wheels underneath, which allow for a surprisingly pleasant roll feel. The turret can go up and down a little bit, and there are 2 sets of Titan Master foot pegs to allow a pair of little robots to ride on top. If you get really creative, you can even cram 4 of them up there using 1 peg each, but it looks anything but natural if you do so. It kinda looks like they're trying to combine all of their butts together at the same time. You've got to ditch the turret one more time to transform Rewind into a robot, but other than that, it's a solid legend scale process. The arms are already half done, and most of the work comes from unfurling the legs. Bonus points for actual flip-out feet, and bonus points for a chest cavity dynamic head reveal. Rewind's got a super solid little robot mode for the most part, with many of the proper shapes in his shoulders and torso and a strong sculpted stance in his legs. It's his forearms that bring things down, as they look positively gigantic compared to everything else going on, even if you only focus on the sculpted forearms over all the bulk attached to them. Also, they're weirdly asymmetrical, since one has space for the gun on the other side. The Headsculpt, though, is a lovely little slice of IDW, complete with an unfortunately unpainted camera on Rewind's left temple. His visor and faceplate are cleanly picked out at least, along with some extra pectoral and shoulder paint to further make clear the figure's identity. The silver tank wheels also pull some double duty to give some visual pop to Rewind's lower legs. As for the cannon accessory, it will fit happily into either of Rewind's hands, but can also find a home on his forearm if you want to kick up some of that hot, fresh fusion cannon style. Rewind's transformation joint allows him to look up and look down. it's a little, odd looking, man. Like, it works, but if you look at it too much, you see his collar bobbing in and out. He can also look left and right, happily. It's not a ball joint, so you can't have any tilting, but you can have wiggle. His shoulders can go forwards and backwards on their ball socket joint. That same ball socket joint lets them go butterfly ever so slightly. It lets them go outwards ever so slightly. If you want more outwards, you gotta use the transformation joint, and then if you do too much of that, his shoulders crush his head, and that's embarrassing. He's got a bicep swivel and an elbow joint, thanks in part to the transformation. His elbow is too high, and his forearm is really long. It makes it look like he doesn't actually have biceps. So it's not like the elbow joint doesn't work. It just, I find, looks extremely awkward from more than one angle. He's got no waist joint. He's got ball socket hips with cuts to allow for basically the full Van Damme. And that's impressive for a little dude. He can kick forwards and backwards. He's got a ball socket knee joint with, again, from the transformation, enough clearance to basically have a double-jointed curl. That ball socket knee also means he has a thigh swivel. And then his feet can point. And they can also go forwards a touch, except that I find that doing that, or even just moving them around too much, can cause them to pop out of their friction hinge. However, that can be useful. That can be useful. Check it out. He's dancing and not falling over. There, I did it. Titan's Return Rewind is absolutely fine. He's got 3 distinct and inoffensive modes, provided you're cool with the whole data slab thing, and if you aren't, his tank mode is cute enough to fill in that gap. Unfortunately, the robot mode's arms keep Rewind far away from perfection, and he also has the dubious honor of being another part of the new, and hopefully short-lived, saga of factory-applied stickers in Transformers Generations. There's no major reason to skip this guy, but be aware that if you find him off-putting in photos, Rewind does very little in person to win you back to his favor. However, if you have Titan's Return Chrome Dome, the two are meant to go together with these head sculpts. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and of course my next review is Chrome Dome. I didn't have much say in it. Rewind was... I didn't really get to sleep like a normal person until I had that script completed.